Hockey Hall of Fame is in Toronto, I believe. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame every year has a big concert, and they corral a whole bunch of aging rocksters together to play at a concert or a jam session or something. And then they induct a bunch of people into something called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's something about a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that doesn't make sense. Am I a fan of rock and roll? Of course. I mean, do I like loud music? You bet I do. Would I go to something like what they're doing in Cleveland this weekend with the jam sessions and everything? Of course I would. If I could be in Cleveland for that, if I didn't have other things to do, certainly I would go. But there is something incongruous about a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Let me tell you why. Rock and roll is perceived by its fans, wrongly I think, but it is perceived by its fans as rebellion. It's perceived by its fans as outrageous, uncontrollable, right? Something your parents wouldn't approve of. That's what rock and roll is supposed to be. Rock and roll is young people getting wild and getting angry and playing music their parents absolutely cannot stand, okay? That's what rock and roll is to me. When I grew up, there was nothing more fun than taking the Jimi Hendrix version of the Star-Spangled Banner to put the Woodstock LP on my Lafayette. Remember Lafayette? It was kind of like a less successful version of Radio Shack. I took my Lafayette turntable. I would put my Woodstock album on there with the two cheap speakers that were, cheaper than even speakers at a drive-in movie house, okay? With the absolute worst possible sound quality you can imagine. I would drop that needle, which was never replaced. It was the original needle that came with the turntable. I would drop that needle on Jimi Hendrix screeching out the Star-Spangled Banner and play it as loudly as I could when I was 13, 14 years old. And did I like that song? I mean, could I sit home now with a CD and get absolutely perfect, digitally remastered sound? Would I sit home and listen to that screeching piece of crap? No. But the fun of it was playing it as loudly as possible so that Mom would get annoyed, so that Dad would get annoyed, so that I would get some attention. Or so I could just annoy everybody. And to me, that's the very definition of rock and roll. Rock and roll should offend your parents. If rock and roll doesn't offend your parents, if you're going to a concert together, to me, it ain't rock and roll. As simple as that. So the very concept of having a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a little bizarre to me. And the reason it's bizarre to me is because it should not be respectable. Rock and roll should be disrespectable, unrespectable, respectless. I don't know, pick a word. But the last thing I want to see is a museum to something that should not be harnessable. That is supposed to be the essence of rebellion. That is supposed to be the essence of everything your parents can't stand. That is rock and roll. And to put it in a museum is to give it a respectability that it not only never really had, but what made it fun is that it didn't have any respectability. What made it fun, now it depends on in which era you were born into rock and roll, what made rock and roll fun was you would turn on the radio and, for example, in the 50s, you would hear those great R&B records, right? And nobody was playing them on radio stations that, like, your parents would listen to. That black music, you would tune down the dial, usually the upper end of the AM dial, way up there above 1,000 on the AM dial. You'd be tuning into all these late-night shows with all these cool DJs and listening to this music that you were not supposed to listen to. Great, right? And then in the 60s, your parents hated long hair, right? So if you grew up in the 60s, you had the long hair thing, you had the Beatles thing and the Rolling Stones thing happening. You were either a Beatles person or a Rolling Stones person, but your parents were neither. Your parents were Frank Sinatra people, and you were either a Beatles or a Rolling Stones person. You were a Rolling Stones person, you were smoking more cigarettes and probably having sex at a younger age than if you were a Beatles person. That's pretty much the way that worked. Later in the 60s, rock and roll was like drugs and stuff, right? Like you're into drugs. Sly Stone showing up late for concerts. Why was that, huh? And Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and Jack Daniels and all that stuff that your parents weren't supposed to know you were doing. The reason rock and roll was lame in the 70s is because rock and roll was something you'd listen to with your parents. I mean, your parents wouldn't mind sitting listening to the Doobie Brothers. That would be okay with them. Lame. Just plain lame, right? And then in the late 70s when the Ramones came around, all of a sudden rock and roll had that element back, the element that, oh, God, your parents would be worried if they saw you with a poster of Joey Ramone, right? That's the way that worked. Or the Sex Pistols. Or watching Sid and Nancy. You know that movie, Sid and Nancy? Well, your parents wouldn't like that. And it goes right up to today. I mean, really, would you want your daughter dating, like, the lead singer from Green Day? Huh? That's what makes rock and roll great. The last thing you want to do is give it respectability. The last thing you want to do is make it like the Mona Lisa and put it behind glass. Oh, look. It's Chuck Berry's guitar. Oh, look. It's the last donut Bill Haley ever tried to ingest. Oh, look. It's Little Richard's eyebrows. That's where they went. Look, they're in a case. They're in a case in the Hall of Fame, for God's sake. This doesn't make any sense at all. So, is this going to be an interesting concert over the weekend? Sure. People going to be listening? Yeah. People going to be watching it on TV? Yeah. Do we really need a building like this? I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. There's other stuff going on. We'll get to it as time goes on. But it's wide open telephones, your opportunity to call in about any issue that's on your mind whatsoever. It doesn't have to be this issue. It can be anything at all. It can be any issue you've heard us discuss on the program. It can be any issue you think we should have discussed that we haven't gotten into. It can be a personal question, a critique, a criticism, a complaint. Anything goes. And here's our toll-free telephone number from across North America. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866. 17 minutes after the hour, my name is Tom Leykis, and we will continue.
Coast to Coast, the Tom Leykis Show.
Heard the latest news about eggs and cholesterol? Write for the American Egg Board's booklet, Eggs in Good Health. Post Office Box 1214, Park Ridge, Illinois, 60068.
Ooh, you gotta love it, the incredible.
It's summer's last long weekend. Time to finish those painting projects.
Oh, he's right. And I still haven't painted the porch.
And you promised all summer long to paint the dining room.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila, and the time is right for painting. Through Labor Day, every gallon, every brand of paint is on sale at Sears. Save 15 to 50%. Like Easy Hide Interior Flat, only $3.99 a gallon. And House Shield Exterior Flat, only $4.99 a gallon.
See, it pays to procrastinate.
All paint on sale right now at Sears and Sears hardware stores.
It's your first time riding through the mountains. You'll never forget the hairpin turns, the sheer drop-offs, and your sudden case of motion sickness. Whoa. If only you had some Dramamine on hand, you could be on your way to feeling better fast. Most often recommended by doctors and pharmacists, there's a Dramamine right for every trip. So keep some fast-acting Dramamine in your glove box. Dramamine. It takes the motion sickness out of travel. Use only as directed.
Hi, this is Bob Vila in the newly carpeted living room of Bill and Lee Hess. Looks great, guys.
Well, we had some pretty specific decorating ideas.
And Sears really helped us find what we wanted.
Well, you certainly made the right choice.
Thanks, Bob.
And through Labor Day, all carpet is on sale at Sears. Save $2 to $17 a square yard on Stainmaster, Anso Choice, Wear Dated 2, and Easy Living carpet. Sale excludes Buyer's Best Buys.
The room is just the way I pictured it.
All carpet on sale right now at Sears.
Finally, your prayers have been answered. Fox NFL Sunday is back. Hosted by Terry Bradshaw.
I'm the guy that's not afraid to make a bold statement.
Jimmy Johnson.
I want to give my opinions. That's what I'm paid to do.
Howie Long.
There's one way you take care of that block. You stop the out of that offensive tackle.
And James Brown.
Well, you know, Howie hasn't hit anybody yet, but it's getting awfully close.
Every week at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, it's expert analysis and more attitude than ever. It's the #1 pregame show in America. Then, batten down your couches, because we're opening the season with a blast. Watch Steve Young, Jerry Rice, and the Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers ride into New Orleans to take on Jim Everett and the rejuvenated Saints. Pre-game coverage begins at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Fox NFL Sunday. Same game, more attitude.
The Fox NFL Sunday season premiere starts at 9 a.m. on Q13 Fox. Don't miss it.
This Friday and Saturday, $1 million worth of TVs, stereos, car stereos, compact discs, cassettes, and more will be liquidated up to 70% off at the Seattle Kingdom. Pioneer, Sony, Hitachi, JVC, Kenwood, Alpine, Fosgate, more are sold to the public 2 days only. Color TVs and VCRs, $99. Camcorders, $2.99. Big screen TVs, $5.99. Cordless phones and answering machines, $19. Hoover vacuums, $39. Sewing machines and microwaves, $49. 120-watt car amps and kicker boxes, $29. Pull-out car stereos, $29. CD players, $49. Thousands of CDs and cassettes up to 70% off. Subwoofer satellite dishes also up to 70% off. Levi, Cross Colors, Pepe and Guess, Nike, Reebok, Fila, Adidas, LA Gear, Converse, and more. Shoes liquidated up to 70% off. Even leather jackets, $49. Full-length leather, $79. With any $50 purchase, get a free cellular or pager. Usual restrictions apply. Seattle Kingdom, Friday noon to 10, Saturday 10 to 8, the Super Sale.
Starts today noon to 10, tomorrow 10 to 8. Save up to 70% off clothing, shoes, jewelry, perfume, pianos, luggage, skis, ski clothing, hot tubs, tools, TVs, stereos, car stereo mattresses, even cars. The Super Sale.
Nighttime is the right time on The Buzz. After Tom, catch Dr. Laura at 7, followed by Jim Bohannon. Here on The Buzz 100.7 FM. You're listening to the Tom Leykis Show on The Buzz 100.7 FM, Seattle.
21 minutes after the hour from Los Angeles, the Tom Leykis Show. Turn on talk radio on its ear, baby. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. What is Johnny Cochran trying to do? Start a riot in L.A.? What is he trying to do? Did you hear that ridiculous comment he made outside the courthouse? Was it outside the courthouse? He was at some outdoor location. I don't know anymore. First of all, he had that wacky outfit on yesterday, that purple jacket and that banded collar black shirt. It was bizarre, to say the least, for an attorney to be having a press conference in this outfit. But nonetheless, he was telling the people of L.A. to stay calm. Now, first of all, who's been rocking and rolling and trying to get L.A. into a frothy frenzy? Who's been doing that? Who's been releasing these tapes? Who's been demanding that we play them over and over and over and over? Who has been trying to turn the O.J. Simpson trial into a racial trial, a trial of race? It's Johnny Cochran. What is he saying when he says to L.A. to keep calm? Is he implying somehow? I mean, is he getting so desperate that he's implying somehow that if things don't go his way, there's going to be trouble in Los Angeles? You know, L.A. has just barely recovered from the riot of April 1992. We've just barely recovered from it. And I wonder what he's doing out there. I don't know what this whole game plan is, but it seems to me that if it took L.A. burning down to get O.J. Simpson off, Johnny Cochran's willing to have that happen. It's totally outrageous. And I am really getting tired of Johnny Cochran at this point. I am really getting tired of him. This little outburst, this little contrived scenario he had in front of the press. I'm just incredulous about it. All right, wide open telephones to your calls. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. Patrick, a first-time caller from Dixon, California. You're on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, you were just talking about the opening of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Let me ask you a question. And you can think about this if you want. How many 16-year-olds do you know that know who Jimi Hendrix is?
How many?
Yeah, just take a while.
I think there are more now than there were 5 years ago.
You really think so?
Than there were 5 years ago.
Well, see, here's where I think the rationale is.
Because people like Lenny Kravitz have tried to bring everybody's awareness about Jimi Hendrix up by mimicking Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, sure, he looks like him, sounds like him.
Right.
It's not the first time, and it's not the last time that's going to happen either. But there are a lot of bands that are aging now, and bands that will die off, like Jerry Garcia just died recently. 20 years from now, who's going to know about them anymore? Who's going to be able to go in a record store and pick up a CD of something, let's say, the Rolling Stones did back in the 60s and go, oh, yeah, this is really cool. They're not. They're going to be listening to what's on the radio now. Adults have money. Kids don't. They listen to the radio. It's free.
So what's your point?
My point is that it seems perfectly valid to me to have a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, there's been some pretty groundbreaking stuff as far as music goes that has happened in the genre of rock and roll.
Well, all the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame proves what I've been saying all along, and that is that rock and roll is a commercial venture. When people refer to something called commercialism in rock and roll, oh, they've gone so commercial. This is the biggest bogus nonsense. I mean, rock and roll was commercial from the word go. It was created by record promoters and radio stations.
Hey,
it was not created by artistes.
Sorry about that. We got a capitalist society. It breeds that sort of thing.
I understand that, but I mean, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now lays it bare for everybody to see. Anybody who has any doubts about whether music is a commercial venture, now, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think, is perfect proof.
Now, just remember, don't lump all the bands that ever cut an album into one basket.
All of them.
Statement.
All of them, because how many of them are giving their music away?
Some of them do. Some of them have tried. Recently, I don't remember what band it was. I think it might have been Pearl Jam, as a matter of fact.
Pearl Jam didn't give any music away. Pearl Jam sells lower-priced tickets.
That may have.
Pearl Jam will keep the price of CDs lower than the price of other CDs that are put out. But I don't see Pearl Jam playing for free. I don't see them playing for the cost of doing business.
No.
They're out there making millions of dollars pretending that they're a bunch of, a bunch of grungy guys. But they're not grungy guys. They're millionaires.
Ever heard of Joe Satriani, Tom?
Yes.
Have you heard his music?
Yes.
Do you know how small a following he really has?
It isn't so small that Sony hasn't signed him to a long-term deal.
Yeah, true, but...
What are they doing, paying him nothing?
I don't know, but he plays more for his music than he does...
That's your opinion.
Yes, it's my opinion.
Well, fine. I'll tell you what. When he plays more for his music, he should call the folks at Sony up and say, don't bother to send me any more cost of putting out the record.
Oh, believe me,
Don't send me any profits. I'm just doing it for the love of the music.
Well, I'm not arguing that point with you at all. I know what it costs to press a single CD in the quantities that a record company does, and if you knew, it would shock you.
Do you think Sony is losing money on Joe Satriani?
Heck no.
All right, fine. They signed Joe Satriani to make money, and Joe Satriani is making money also, and so is everybody signed to a major label. Period. End of story.
Of course they are. Like I said, it's a capitalistic society.
All right, but what I'm talking about is there are people out there who actually believe that music is created for some artistic reason. In this country, it is not. For the most part, music, especially any artist signed to a big label, is produced for commercial purposes. I mean, Bob Dylan, Mr. Protest, Mr. Harmonica around his neck. I mean, the guy's buying houses in Malibu while he's putting out records on Columbia protesting the war, and people are believing he's some kind of, grassroots guy. And it was the big lie when I was a kid that Bob Dylan was some kind of grassroots thing. He was a multi-millionaire, and he still is, and there was nothing more to it than that.
Yeah, but you could also, well, one might say, at least in my opinion, that being, let's say, a radio talk show host is an art form.
It is not an art form. I am here to make money. I am here for crass commercial purposes. I am here for money. And by the way, I'm the only one who will admit it to you. I'm a talk show whore. I must tell you, Patrick, no offense, but unless someone were paying me to have this conversation with you right now, I wouldn't be having it.
No doubt.
I'm your whore.
You're going to host the best.
They pay me, and you are here getting my services because I'm being paid to service you.
Well, anyway, I think we're getting off the subject here. Is there anything wrong, however, with people paying their money to get their ticket to go through the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and actually?
No, they can do whatever they want. I just think that it's incongruous with the image of rock and roll.
The image of rock and roll as you see it, that is.
Well, no, the image of rock and roll as most people see it.
There's a lot of...
I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame very obviously portrays rock and roll for what it really is. A multi-million-dollar capitalist venture that has nothing to do with art whatsoever. Do I enjoy it? Yes. Do I enjoy Hostess cupcakes? Yes. Would I put them in a museum? No. Thank you. 1-800-5800-TOM.
The Tom Leykis Show.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Gregory with the Buzz headlines. All 8 Smith's home furnishing stores in Washington are being closed as the company goes through bankruptcy reorganization. The city of Tacoma has signed a $3.1 million deal to buy a 74-mile rail line needed in the city's plan to restore passenger rail service to Mount Rainier. Seattle City...